Hi, welcome to our first live at 5 in the new year, 2021. How does it feel?
It's nice to be back, Tom.
Is it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it's a day, isn't it?
It is a day. It is a day. We've got a new setup. Hopefully you'll be enjoying it. I don't know, quite. I wouldn't say professional. I'd say getting.
Oh, yeah, like rough professional.
Rough professional.
As professional as we get.
Something from the 90s or maybe 80s.
Yeah, look, a good 80s pull. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, as always, if you've got any questions, then fire them in the little box below. We'll aim to keep an eye on them and answer them as we go through.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about all things non-alcoholic.
I'm over comfortable here.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
I don't like it. I like the stools where I have to sort of sit myself up.
So before we get into the main section, we're talking about non-alcoholic fermentation and just generally non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
It's January. What have you up to this week, Will?
So this week we've been working on the small batch program. So we're releasing the coffee boucher.
Is that how we're saying it? Boucher?
Yeah, boucher, 100% boucher.
Always boucher.
I even looked into the spelling and tried to see where other people are sort of going with the spelling, because there's three or four different
spellings going out there. So while we're here, let's crack open one of our non-alcs.
Yeah.
Drink while we talk. This has been one of the first sessions we haven't had a drink, Will.
Yeah, and like you're doing a bit more of a dry January than I am. As my job goes, Tom, I literally can't do a dry January.
I'm just trying not to drink during the week. Is my aim. I did crack last night and have a gin tonic, but
sorry, I thought you said I did crack last night. I'm not drinking, but crack's okay.
Just crystal meth.
Yes.
All meth.
Gets me up in the morning.
So what have we got here, Will?
So this is our non-alc, which is a low ABV crossover with a vinegar fermentation.
Nice.
So it's just trying to go a little bit different to, let's say, the beer style of low alc, which is either a malt used with brewed to a really low ABV and then watered down, or using a different type of yeast, not necessarily Saccharomyces, that doesn't chew through all the different sugars, so you can produce more glucose and more of those maltodextrin and all these sort of like unfermentable sugars, but it also won't ferment the rest, so you end up with a little bit of a more fun product.
Sure. So what are we getting on the nose? So on the nose for me, it's a bit funky.
Yeah,
definitely
funky lemon, little hint of vinegar, and I'm talking little.
Yeah, it's mellow, doesn't it? So this was brewed start of last year. Mm-hmm. So it's been in the can for a little while. It's really calmed down.
Oh man, it's gotten better in the can. So also on the nose, it's lemon, maybe a little bit of like orange, like ripe orange. Like there's a weird, like not weird, but like there's a sweetness to it that doesn't quite come across on the palate.
But no, I mean, it's delicious, isn't it?
I really like that. Like I know that we've talked about this a couple of times on our podcast and on this. Yeah, we just love it. But it is one of the ones that we made that we had to hide because we would just go to it.
Yeah, exactly. We just smashing through it, wasn't we?
And it went really well actually. You know, and we only did a small run of it. We sold out pretty quick. And now we're looking at, okay, we didn't really want to release this again. I guess what today's going to go through as well is,
exactly.
We didn't really want to release this again. We wanted to improve as we do each time, and that was a really good idea. But I think we could have executed just a little bit more, little tighter. It's probably
just differently. I think we've learned a lot of things by doing it, and especially from the production side, in terms of managing a ferment which has lots of different elements. It's just really tricky and just really
mixed fermentation when you don't work with it constantly, or even working with just different bacteria and yeast, when you don't do it all the time, they can surprise you, and they sort of bring out, the holes in your knowledge that you hide for a reason.
Guys, if you've got any questions as we run through, then do drop us a line. I am attempting. That's why I'm looking on my left-hand side. Just keep an eye on things.
So professional now. We have a left-hand side out-of-frame shot with things in it that we can actually refer to, look at.
We just need a bit of a background there, Will. I think we'll be
well, I reckon we get a green. This
anyway,
is conversation for next week.
So this week, as we just said, we're looking to evolve the non-alc, right? So I think for me, what I'm looking for when I'm not drinking is something that still has enough complexity and bite that I don't smash through it like a soft drink, right? Because the worst thing is when you're out not drinking with people is you finish your drink before everyone else and you just need to live all the time.
Yeah, and you're drinking usually with those
Sugary,
tons of sugar, right?
Yeah.
And with me, I'm kind of the opposite with my dry January to a sense, but I like a reduced alcohol intake January. I know it's not as catchy, but
I think that's where I've ended up as well. Just like a few better choices.
Yeah, and like instead of going out and drinking pints and drinking, like I'll go for a table beer over a dipper. In December that's the opposite way. Like I'm either like years previous where you're building up and you quite like that sort of sociable Christmas side, and you're out and you go out and you see all your friends and hugely sociable.
Wow.
So I just really reined it in.
Yeah, okay.
I just didn't want to make anybody else feel bad.
No, that's fair enough. So anyway, there needs to be enough complexity. And so what I've been playing about with is, there's a couple of ways of doing this, right? And there's a couple of ways of achieving complexity through fermentation without the alcohol. What are they then? Well, you're the brewer.
Okay, so the way, the three that we'll probably refer to in this is the Lacto Fermentation, the acetobacter or vinegar-based fermentation, which covers gin, kombucha, anything that involves acetobacter as the process of removing the alcohol. Lacto being Lactobacillus-based fermentations, and the third being low-brewed Saccharomyces strains.
Sure. So I think if we just run through those, assume I don't know what any of those are. Well, start off with the lacto.
Assume it was yesterday.
All right. Start off with the lacto.
So Lactobacillus is the bacteria that we use for making yogurt and is used in lots of different especially in the dairy industry.
Yeah.
It's also used to make kettle sours or sour beers. That's where you get lactic acid from. Can you synthesize lactic acid? You would be able to.
I'm sure you wouldn't.
There'd be no reason to.
No reason easily make it. I don't know much about the. Well, how is lactose related to lactic acid?
So lactose is a sugar.
Yeah, I know lactose is a sugar.
So lactic acid is, I guess,
just must share a group. I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, what's the lac part of it?
I don't know.
It's probably not.
Anyway.
Yeah, cool. Let's move
on.
So lactose is a sugar. Lactobacillus lives in. Yeah, there's a. I don't know. That's really annoyed me because I probably do know the answer. I probably read the answer, but I can't think of it right now. So then lactobacillus will create lactic acid. So that's there's a family of lactic what they call LAB, lactic bacteria. So lactic acid bacteria. And then you've also got things like flab as well, which is fructose-based lactic acid bacteria. So they do start breaking up.
So anyway,
the
long story short is that it's a fermentation
using the one strain of bacteria or multiple strains of lactobacilli, because there's also thousands of different strains.
Yeah. So basically, what you're doing is you're taking in sugar and you're kicking out lactic acid.
Yeah, and it's a very small amount of sugar as well.
Yeah. So traditional fermentation, you take in Saccharomyces, which is a traditional alcohol yeast. Take in sugar and kick out CO2 and alcohol. With lacto fermentation, you're just taking in sugar and kicking out lactic acid.
Yeah, right? and some other fermentation byproducts, which gives you that sort of fermented character. When you have like a proper lacto fermented soft drink, let's say, there's a lot more depth and characteristic to it than a lemonade with just lemon juice.
It's the same thing you'd get in pickles as well, like lacto.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's that kind of thing.
So the next one is
let's say acetobacter.
Yeah, acetobacter.
So that is so a little bit more complex than the lacto. So what you're doing is using acetobacter. So that is turning alcohol, so ethanol, into acetic acid or vinegar. So that's why vinegar is made from traditionally like spoiled wine or spoiled beer or whatever. And interestingly, if you like that kind of thing, it's an aerobic reaction. Right, so you need air in there. So that's why if you leave a glass of wine out, it starts to turn. Right?
Well, that's it, and it's also why you can have that bacteria live in your product, keep it in an anaerobic environment, so without the presence of oxygen, and you won't have that process going, and it takes some time, so you can open up and enjoy it. Same as like a kombucha that's been naturally carbonated, where you can create the 0.5% alcohol that you get from the carbonation process, and it won't go any further and won't convert that.
Yeah.
So as soon as you put a little bit of oxygen, it will slowly start to convert that.
Exactly. So that's what I've been playing with. Oh, well, there we go. We are back, guys.
We also don't know where we finished.
No, I don't know where we finished, to be honest. Anyway, we're talking about two different types of non-alcoholic fermentation. We just finished talking about lacto fermentation, where mainly what I've been playing around with is acetobacter, or making vinegar, right? And that's, for me, is really exciting. You get such a complexity of flavour from when you take really good quality alcohol and then you let the acetobacter go through it. That is just really complex. So let's start off, Will. If you want to pour...
We'll go through the last one as well. I suppose we've done the other two.
Oh, yeah,
so
true. Yes,
the last one is just a really basic, using a different form of Saccharomyces, or using Saccharomyces as a low ABV. So the way to look at it is kind of like either making a 1 or 2% alcoholic product and then watering that down to 0.5, or even creating a 5% going back to a 2, or only creating a 1 or 2% solution. The other thing is, like we talked about with beer, is they're using, there's different strains of Saccharomyces that don't necessarily eat all the different types of sugar.
Yeah.
So it'll actually only chew through a very small amount of the sugars that you produce, and that way when you're doing your mash steps as a brewer, you can choose a little bit more directional about which sugars that you want to produce, and then that way you'll end up with a quite a rounded product that you don't need to keep as much of an eye on, and you'll leave a little bit of residual sweetness, but you still get the malt character and everything else.
Sure. So we're going to talk about the vinegar.
Let's go.
So this is vinegar. How long has this been in process, Will? So basically, what we did was we took some of our mead that was from a keg, I think.
So we took the citrusy, that is. We wanted to see what happened if we did created like a mead vinegar, like a cider. You would get a cider vinegar, and create it from mead. And then we've done that before. It's not the first time that we've made vinegar on purpose as well.
On purpose. Always on purpose.
Always on purpose.
Always not in the main brewery.
Yeah, always away from it. Always under the desk in the office, which is magnifique.
Like my desk, though, it's very clean.
It smells sometimes. So we want to do this with citrusy to have a little bit more complexity, to see what happens when we put a little bit of salt in vinegar.
And this mother came from Gimlet. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's Gimlet. So you poured it over, and then we're like, he's like, oh, do you want to? I've got a spare.
He makes loads of ciders, loads of vinegars. So lent us a mother, gave us a mother.
Yeah.
And so this is what we made for it. So on the note, we're tasting vinegar, so it's gonna smell of vinegar. Trying to get something else on it. There's a hint of savoury note in there, I would say.
Yeah, there's a little bit in the background. There's a good amount of funk. Like, it's a little bit breathy almost, like a little bit of horse blanket and wet grass.
Oh yeah, I mean it is fun. And there's a good level of
like it. I don't know. Some people, I do. I just readjust my palate there. That is quite shocking.
There is quite a lot of acid in that. But we'll come on to how we're using this in drinks, because it's a really good base.
So the body's got a little bit more sweetness than you'd expect. You think it'd be like almost like white vinegar. That's just really just biting. It's almost got like an orangey sort of orange peel sort of feel to it as well, where it's got a nice sort of round sweetness in there in the body, which is kind of cool. Which I don't know, like. I don't know how much people taste vinegars, but like you can actually go and taste vinegars.
Same like taste olive oil and that. Yeah.
And there is such a varying flavour profile that comes from vinegar, and that there to me is super fruity, but it's just got a real punch behind it.
Yeah, it does. It's really good. And so what I've been doing with this is I've been messing about with this kind of stuff. So I've got two things for you to try today. First is what they call a shrub, and the second is a switchel. Good names, both of them.
Brilliant.
The shrub, so I've got a bit of history for you. Just going to drop some knowledge bombs here.
I love when you talk history, Tom. As a history major myself, it's always beautiful to
see someone try. So shrubs. So first, basically, they refer to like fruit and alcohol in one instance, or fruit and vinegar in the other. Fruit and alcohol is quite interesting because traditionally, when they used to try and smuggle booze into the UK, down in Cornwall and that kind of stuff, they used to sink the barrels. And the seawater would get into them, and so they'd have to cover up the seawater taste of the barrels with fruit and spices and other kind of stuff. So you get this kind of fruit liqueurs. But what this is actually a relation of is the second thing to do with the shrub, which is the preservation of fruit in vinegar. So traditionally you can preserve fruit with citrus fruits, as in I think soft fruits, with citrus fruits. This is done with vinegar. And so this is going to be the next one we're going to try. And we'll try a little bit, and then I'll mix it with some soda water. which I will get out of the fridge in a second. And basically what I've done, and I'll put up I did some recording of this, so I'll put it up on Monday, about how we made this. And basically it's berry fruit, soft fruits, soaked in sugar, so really like, macerate is not the right word, so mix it all up, pull out all the juice. And then I put aside the solid fruits, use that for my porridge, and then you got left with this kind of fruity syrup, and then I mix that 1-to-1 with vinegar. And what you get is this, quite frankly, it turned out better than I could ever have expected.
Alright, let's have a go at this. So, not only is it a beautiful ruby red,
yeah,
it feels thick.
It is, and that's the sugar. There's no way of getting around the sugar.
Yeah.
The sugar, I balanced out the vinegar with the sugar.
I can spin it around the glass and it takes at least 5 seconds for it to run down.
Yeah, the legs on that.
Oh my god.
So on the nose, it just smells like strawberries.
It smells like strawberry jam. Like, straight up, and I don't know why I said jam, but it smells like strawberry jam, a little bit like raspberry jam in there as well.
For me, I mean, it smells like a tin of strawberries and syrup, which is what it is. But then...
So nice.
Then on the palate, that vinegar just brings it all to life.
Oh, wow. It's kind of like, you know, something I can't think of, like, it's so much more sour than that, but when you pour something out of a can, let's say, and you think it's going to be like water, but it turns out to be like syrup or something like that, and you're just not expecting it to be
quite. So worth saying, I've been drinking vinegar all week. So that's why I'm a little bit more used to this.
That tastes incredible. Like, I want more, but I'm also just a little bit scared of it.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's super fruity. It's not jammy at all. It's more like really sour cranberry syrup or pomegranate molasses. More like it, probably like a really sour pomegranate molasses.
Oh, it's just. I could drink that. I could drink loads of that. Pass me a little of that. Well, it's gone.
We already drank it, Tom.
We already drank it. It's just so good.
We haven't had this for ages, so we're talking about the low alc. It's just one of those things to get out. I just want to
smash it.
Just want to go. It's just got better with age.
Can you pass me the soda water out?
I'll see what I can do, Tom. You going to tell us any more anecdotes about?
Yeah, so we'll move on to the second one, which is it's a similar theme, right? So it's vinegar, it's honey, and it's ginger in this case. So this one's called a switchel. Comes from the US, sort of New England, traditional summer drink there. I say traditional, back like 1700s.
Why is switchel sounding familiar?
Probably because I've been banging on.
It sounds like satchel, I think.
Exactly, it does sound like satchel. So this one is, when I gave this to James earlier, I preferred the shrub, the berry shrub. He was definitely of the ginger switchel.
I think James likes ginger.
Yeah,
I
mean, for me, this is quite a lot of ginger.
It looks like a lot of. Is that how much you macerated just in that little jar?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of ginger.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, we're not messing around here.
No, that's it. But you can always dial it back. It's well, actually, obviously,
you can always put more in. Yeah, I did say to Anna, I was like, you're gonna need some more ginger. How much ginger did you use? Oh yeah, all of it.
Yeah, all of it. All that we had. If you had more, I would have used that. So there's no right amount of ginger. There's just getting more ginger.
I tell you what, I've been smashing through ginger recently. Okay. Yeah.
I like it as a base. Like that, it blew my mind with when you do like garlic, ginger, and chili as a base.
Yeah.
And you know, it's because I'm quite used to the garlic or onion and carrot and celery for my base for everything. But just to change it up, it's quite nice.
So this on the nose. It's a little bit more savoury.
You don't really get the vinegar on the nose. It's so much ginger. There's a little bit, like, more because I know the funkiness of that vinegar that I'm pulling the funk. But as it goes, maybe I've just gone nose blind after whatever. Oh, my stomach hurts too.
But not because of my drink.
No, because I just laughed and turned. That's what happens when you've been sitting down for 3 weeks.
Oh, that's lovely. And I can get the honey in that. Get the vinegar. Less of the ginger on the flavour. I think it's probably only so much ginger you can taste.
The vinegar's definitely there. Oh, just like, I love the idea that it just bangs in your mouth and suddenly your mouth just goes, I don't want this, and just shoots all the saliva just to push it away from everything.
Oh, for for me.
Yeah, you're right. The ginger's not much on the palate.
Not much on the palate.
It's really strong on the nose.
It is really strong. Yeah. So I'm going to make some. I say cocktails. I'm just going to mix them with soda water, right? So I think these are particularly the shrub is a really good replacement for, say, some citrus fruit. So when you're building cocktails with these, you want to be conscious that you don't want to layer on too much citrus flavour over top because it's just acid on acid. So you have to use it like an acid. Use it like an acid and then a sugar already pre-made. So I'm just going to.
I wonder what it would be like to do a flip with it, Tom. Or
what do you mean with
like
an
a
egg?
sour, yeah.
Like a non-alcoholic flip.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing when I get in.
Yeah. I was just thinking, because I think that worked out well. One of my favourite cocktails from Christmas time was, it sounds rough, and it was rough, but amaretto with mandarins
You said, yeah.
and balsamic vinegar. And that was absolutely incredible. So I didn't have any lemons, obviously, and I wanted to make an amaretto sour because amaretto sours are fantastic. But yeah, so I decided to go like, okay, what citrus fruit do we have in the house? What citrus fruit do we have in the house? And all I have is mandarins because it's December, the season you can get.
Right, we're back, guys. We're having some technical issues here. I think it's because Mark Zuckerberg's scared of how many people are logging into our Instagram live.
I would be too.
I would be too. So where are we? So I've just put 2 shots of the shrub mix into a glass with some ice. I'm just going to top it up with soda water. And Robert's your father's brother.
Yeah, guys. So if you've got the, you want to know what we've missed.
Oh, look at that colour with the soda water.
This is why we got the mat, Tom.
This is why we've got the mat.
That's why I also gave you a cloth.
It's almost like you could predict.
I could kind of see this coming out, Tom.
Exactly. Which one of these would you like, Will?
That one there looks. Yeah, I think I'll have this one, Tom.
Okay, well then I will knock up the next one, which is going to be a similar kind of replication. What else do you like drinking when you're trying to not drink? Well,
so like I was saying before, I'm not really quite the low alc sort of person. I don't sort of want to say to myself, I don't want to spend a whole month not drinking. That's just not feasible. So I quite like the low alternatives. So talking about like amaretto, not that amaretto is kind of my thing, but something like Campari and soda, Tom, which I know you're a big fan of.
Which we've got on the table, which is on the right side. I love a Campari and soda.
I like a sherry instead of a whiskey.
Yeah. Sherry and tonic is one of mine. Actually.
Really? So really growing up, I think I've told you this story, but growing up it was quite cheap to get cream sherry.
Yeah. You told me this, yeah.
And cream sherry and lemonade. Spend about $5 and you get pretty
good on that.
Pretty stonkered.
Yeah, I think it is for me certainly, especially if you work in booze. It is about it opens up a lot.
Lemon's quite nice in there too.
Yeah, it definitely opens up a little bit. What was I going to say?
It's so much more manageable.
Yeah, exactly. It's like drinking neat spirits. It's like some of them are designed to go in cocktails.
It's like drinking neat white rum, right?
And they're nice colours,
Yeah, because you got the different density of solutions too, Tom. You got a nice little effect happening there.
No, but I'm just going to
ruin that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's nice.
I quite enjoy that.
That's really nice. That's gone away. Like the severity of that is really gone down. Yeah. So guys, really sorry about the technical issues this week. We are going to have to beat our engineer until he
exists.
Until he exists. Yeah. Until he exists. I mean me. I don't know. Anyway, if you do have any questions or thoughts, then let us know. We will be back next week with
a consistent
podcast /
But what else do we have to cover today? What else do we want to talk about, Tom?
It's about where we're going to take the non-alc. So I think there's some inspiration here to be drawn.
And I think
my idea of just putting the shrub in a can and just
and carbonating it, at that syrupiness.
Yeah.
Moving on with the non-alc, I think the way we're looking at doing it is doing 3 or 4 different types of ferments that sort of coincide with each other, and they sort of then we blend it across to how we want. So my idea of creating that complexity is not necessarily, a low ABV or anything like that. It's actually a mixture of these different types of fermentation processes. The only one that we didn't touch on, which is another non-alc idea, is the people that have the ability to, let's say, with a rotobath, or that have the ability to start boiling the mash and remove the alcohol, and leave what's left, and sort of leave the residual and remove the alcohol. But I think if we do it in 3 different flavor profiles, and then blend those together, you get a nice complexity that makes it feel like you're drinking. Yeah,
I think you just want to introduce enough interest in there that it's not just basic sugar and acid.
Yeah, and when we go out, like as people who ferment for a living, like as we go out, there's not really anything there that makes you want to go, oh, I want to try the next one, or what else do they do in that sort of varietal, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's not, I don't know about everybody at home, but when I go out to drink, I'm not necessarily going, oh, I feel like lager, and I drink lager for the whole evening. No, I quite like to jump around and go up and down. It's like, oh, I feel like a bit of a sour now, or I feel like an imperial stout. I'll have a little short of that. And my night is quite varied in like I do with music, where, depending on what mood I'm in.
All Kanye all the time. That's where we differ, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But as my mood changes, my wants and needs change as well. So over the night, as I'm sort of building up or calming down, like I like to have a drink that represents that. So when you go out and you're non-alc drinking, even at a cocktail bar, you're looking at 2, 3, 4 different types.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Sort of things. Or when you go do non-alc beers, like you have a bit more of a spectrum. You have a bit more, mainly based on each brewery has their own take on a non-alc. But a lot of those are very much similar styles.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been drinking a lot more non-alc beers than you have, I imagine, because I just keep them around. And I feel like those lighter styles at the moment work much better. So I had a couple of stouts, which didn't really work, right?
Because I quite like the small beer guys' take on that as well. Yeah, it's not necessarily having to be low alc, but there's
enough in there to get good quality beer out.
And that's what you're going for, is like, okay, what's the ABV level before it turns into something I don't want it to be? Yeah. And that's talking about like dark beers. That's the only low alc dark beer that I had that I was like, oh, okay. I quite enjoyed it.
You're playing around that 2.5%. We will see you next week because there's some ominous beeping. We will sort the technical setup and we'll be right back on again at 5 next week. We should be joined by a very special guest that we'll confirm in the week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, and see you all next week.
Take care.